How the Bucks beat the Boston Celtics and start to turn their season around. We preview tonight's matchup coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I am Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day each and every day, and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in the industry. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We have the Bucks returning to the floor tonight after what feels like an eternity and a 4-day layoff. They're going to get a similar layoff coming up here in the very near future, but we actually get back to having games to discuss and preview, which I think is a welcome break for all Bucks fans at this point. The trouble is the team that we are previewing comes in as now one of the best teams in the league, which very few of us saw coming into the season. The 15-9 Boston Celtics, who have been okay defensively, but the number 5 offense in the league via cleaning the glass. And Jalen Brown playing like a guy I wouldn't say we didn't envision, but I think there was a lot of question marks surrounding what's this going to look like with Jalen Brown as the guy versus Jason Tatum, and how much efficiency is going to dip for the Boston Celtics. And Camille, long story short, the answer is none so far for this team.
Yeah, they got off to a really slow start this season, which reflected in their record. But over the last 12 games in particular, they have really started to turn it on to get that offensive rating up. And I think the biggest difference from the first 12 games to the last 12 games so far has just been the fact that they're making their shots now. Like in the first 12 games, I listened to Locked On Celtics earlier and heard some stuff, and I was like, man, what? Like in the first 12 games for the Celtics, their offensive rating was 17th in the league. Over the last 12 games, they've been first. Over the first 12 games, they were shooting 33% from three. Now they're shooting 41.2% over their last 12. Another big point that has really helped the Celtics, and it's something that we've been hearing about a lot in the league as offensive rebounding has become a priority for so many teams. It's also one for the Celtics. And we had questions. I know me and you discussed it when talking about Boston and like, man, what's that front court going to look like? It has to be one of the worst front courts in the East. And they stumbled into a small ball lineup, and it has been working for them. Jordan Walsh, Josh Minott, like they have been out here just high effort, killing it on the offensive glass. Like their offensive rebounding has jumped from 11th to 3rd in between the first 12 and the last 12 games for them. So like they're hard to check on the offensive glass. They're knocking down their shots now. So ultimately, I'm saying they're doing a lot of the things well that the Bucks tend to struggle with in opposing offenses, which that's tough.
They are doing everything that we hoped the Bucks would do, and some things I don't think really hoped for or assumed would happen. But as we have started to get a better understanding of the next evolution of the league, you have understood these are things you have to do to be successful. I think, I don't remember if it was you I've talked about this with on this show or if it was on the radio show itself, but the modern math in the NBA has changed once again, where for years it was, well, 3 is worth more than 2. So if you just hit threes, you're going to win. I don't remember the exact number, but we had that game earlier this year where the Bucks made 21 threes and shot 55% and lost. And that was the 7th time it's happened in league history, but 4 of those 7 have been in the last 2 seasons. I think we're up to 7 teams so far this season that have hit 23s and lost the game, which would have been unthinkable the past couple of seasons. So it's no longer become just, hey, hit threes because it's worth more than 2s. It's get possessions. If you have the ball more and if you take more shots, with how gifted scorers are, with how good offenses are, you are going to win more games than you are going to lose. And that is what the Celtics are doing, because not only are they getting more possessions right now, just this isn't the the rebounding rate, but the raw numbers, which I've often said I hate citing, they're number 5 in offensive rebounds per game, which for a perimeter-based team shows you it is possible, despite what is being said, and why, well, the Bucks can just never be a good offensive rebounding team because you got 4 guys behind the line and you're chucking threes. Look at Boston. Right now, they're making the most threes in the league. They are taking the 3rd most threes in the league. They are just outside of the top 10 in three-point efficiency, and they're in the top 5 in offensive rebounding. So don't come to me with, yeah, but the scheme, it's not impossible. And we're starting to see you need to reevaluate things specifically on the offensive glass and value these possessions. But they're getting the ball more. They're turning those into threes. That's what's really juiced this offense. And then you mentioned a couple of those names too. I mean, you look at some of the guys that the Celtics have taken flyers on. Basically, I think you would say taking a flyer on. I think you could point to like 4 guys so far, and it's still early in the case of really one of them to say, hey, this is really paying off. But you anticipate maybe one of your 3 or 4 guys hits, and then that was worth it. Like we rolled the dice. We got very small contracts on these guys, and one of them paid off. All of them have paid off so far for the Celtics. And Neemias Queta has been fantastic for them in the front court. A one that I said before the season, I think they're quiet quitting when you look at this front court that they're putting out there. Queta has been great. Jordan Walsh, who you mentioned, has been a defensive revelation for the Celtics. Josh Minott, who was just a castaway with the Timberwolves, and now he's found a home with Boston. Even Hugo Gonzalez, who I believe they drafted. They're getting these types of performances from their role players, and Jalen Brown is just under 30 points a game. That, for all those things we talked about, Bucks are going to need to take more threes and make more threes. All the things they're going to have to do on the margins, all the way down to the pecking order of the offense here, where Jalen Brown is basically at 30, and then you got 4 other double-digit scorers led by a couple of 17, 18-point-per-game guys in Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. You look at the Celtics, and you say, damn, this is what we were supposed to be this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the guys who were hitting for them, that was like, man, they needed everyone to hit for them to be in this position, and they're all happening. And even like the shooting, like I don't think anyone expected that Jalen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and White would be 3 guys being who have worse 3-point percentage field goals than Jordan Walsh, than Josh Minott, than Luke Garza is shooting 44% from 3 right now. Simons is shooting 40% from 3. Like all of their 40+% 3-point shooters, none of them are the guys you would have expected it to be coming into the season. Like Derek White is shooting 33.8% from 3, albeit he's shooting 9 threes a game.
Right.
Peyton Pritchard putting up 8 a game, shooting 34%. Jalen Brown shooting 36% from 3, putting up about 6 a game himself. Even Sam Hauser putting up about 6 3-point attempts a game, shooting about 36%. So like the shooting variance, getting such good output from some guys you didn't expect is kind of helping, while some of their other guys are still finding their shooting stroke, albeit at a far higher volume than the other guys. And I think the offensive rebounding does play a part in that, because the quality of the shot that you're able to get off an offensive rebound tends to be really good because guys are scrambling. So if you're able to get that board, get a second chance opportunity, and attack defense while they're scrambling, like you're going to get a high value shot generally out of that situation. So the Celtics have figured that out, although they are the slowest paced team in the league right now. Like you don't generally hear like, oh, that offense is top 5 and their pace is the slowest in the league. But because they're able to generate points off of second chance, because they're able to put up a high volume of 3-pointers, like they've just figured something out with their offense that is working for them. Now, I will say this on like the Bucks side of things, like, well, what can the Bucks kind of like look forward to and maybe take advantage of? It's going to be a fight, because the guys who we mentioned about like Walsh and Minott, like they are high energy guys. Like they just have motors. They're always attacking. The Celtics don't really get to the free throw line a lot. They're the only team in the league with a worse free throw rate. Right. The Bucks, again, they shoot a lot of threes, so that is part of it. And they're not a team that actually Well, no, they actually do that pretty well as well. So the free throws is one of the things you can be like, hey, maybe this is the game where free throw advantage can work in the Bucks' favor, but the Bucks are going to have to be tight on the string because one of the things Boston has is Joe Mazzulla, and the way that he's been coaching up this team and running action and figuring out what works for them, even though they have been shorthanded without Tatum, it's been really impressive to watch.
Yeah, a couple of the things you just mentioned there I want to get into in the next segment. And then from a Bucks perspective, we touched on this a little bit on yesterday's show, but just the here and now and the go forward, what shifts and who assumes a much, much larger role for this team. We'll dig into those conversations coming up next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets, that's usually the hardest part. That's why Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it simple to scroll through all of the matchups and even compare seat views. That seat view, it's a game changer. You can literally see what the pitch looks like from your seat before you buy. Prices include fees up front, so no last-second surprises at checkout. And you can even get alerts for teams and matches to make it easy to grab those tickets the moment they drop and never miss out. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets at every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. New year, new systems, and this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think, there has to be a better way. There is. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. If you're ready to make your workday smoother and keep customers connected without the headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever. A streamlined system makes such a big difference when communicating with customers. You're able to share one team number, and it makes it so much easier to make sure nothing gets missed. There's AI summaries and call logging that makes it feel like you have an assistant keeping track of every detail. So make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That is QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. So I was going to point out Celtics are 30th in free throw rate right now. It just shows you, not surprised, right? With the offensive profile that Boston has, they are a team that's leaning into threes. So it's not shocking that they are going to get to the free throw line at a rate much lesser than anyone else. The Bucks aren't too far behind. The free throw rate for the Celtics is 16.1. The Bucks are 16.8. So they're basically even here. The other thing is these are two teams in the Bucks and Celtics who are almost identical in their foul rate. So their free throw rate for opponents. Bucks are 24.2%. The Celtics are 24.8%. So they're losing that battle just as the Bucks are. They're losing on the defensive glass just as the Bucks are. That their defensive rebounding rate for the Celtics is 68%. The Bucks are 69.4%. They're winning every other margin that the Bucks are getting slaughtered in. They're protecting the ball. We've talked about turnovers for the Bucks. Celtics are number one in turnover rates, and the Bucks have slid to the middle of the pack in terms of how frequently they turn it over. On the flip side, Celtics are number 9 now in turnovers that they're creating. Bucks have slid down to 19. Celtics defense is allowing opponents or limiting them to 52.9% effective field goal percentage. That is number 6 in the league. So you have a team That is number 9 in their own effective field goal percentage and number 6 on the defensive end. Conversely, for the Bucks, they are 3, but they're 21 on the other end of the floor. So it's quite simple where Boston is finding the advantage. They are getting extra possessions with offensive rebounds, and their defense has just been vastly superior to what we've seen from the Bucks. So when you mention, hey, you look at Celtics aren't great at getting at the free throw line either, maybe you can have an advantage there. Celtics foul teams too, even more than the Bucks do. I still don't have any confidence we're going to see any type of difference there at the free throw line, because we need to just kind of see this sustained for the Bucks. We need to see more attacks in the paint and not just relying on 3-point attempts. And I think right now that's the biggest difference. Is it is a 3-point heavy team in Boston, but their number 1 leading scorer is Jalen Brown, who is a guy that can and will score in the mid-range. And he's a guy that can get to the free throw line, though not a great volume of them. He's only taken about 7 or 8 free throws a game, but still, I'll take that over anything on the Bucks roster right now.
Yeah, that's the thing with Boston. It's actually one of those games I think for Bucks fans watching is kind of watch how Boston operates, right? Because I think a lot of what they do is like that's what we wanted the Bucks to be doing this season. Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. But the reason that I was like maybe free throw is going to be the one like silver lining for the Bucks. I get your skepticism behind it, and it goes behind what we've been talking about this week of like, yeah, there's some optimism, but like the Bucks have to show us something before you can really put your faith in them being able to do it consistently. The only reason that, well, I should say the only reason, one of the main reasons that the Celtics defense is now middle of the pack, which is one of their worst stats of the moment, is just the fact that they foul too much. They foul too much. Yeah. And I think for that reason, it's going to be a game. We're not sure at the moment if AJ Green is going to be playing or not. He's still questionable.
I would assume no.
Yeah, the last I saw, so like that's a 3-point shooter gone, but you're going to have to count on Kyle Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., and you're going to have to count on Ryan Rollins to be those 3 guys in particular who continue to put pressure on the rim, not only to try to draw those fouls and get to the free throw line, but to create those 3-point opportunities for other guys. Because when you are missing an AJ Green, who is your best 3-point shooter, that's taking a big blow out of your offensive lineup. So you're going to have to try to create even easier shots for all the other guys on your roster. And it's not me saying like Gary Trent or whoever else is terrible at shooting, but you want to try to give them the best opportunity to knock down those shots. You don't want contested shots if available. So like, I think it's going to be a lot on those 3, Kuz, Scoot, and Ryan, to really try to create not only for themselves, but for everyone else around them with their ability to touch paint, kick out, and hopefully get that defense scrambling for Boston so that it opens up offensive looks for the Milwaukee Bucks. Because as we know, like the Bucks, when they have the chance to shoot, like they have been shooting at a very good volume percentage. Yeah. It's just the fact that the actual attempts haven't been high enough, and they haven't been able to get into it consistently because they have also been turning the ball over a little bit too much as of late. So take care of the ball, touch paint, try to spray the shooters, and try to draw those fouls. I think is going to be the pathway forward. And of course, as always, put a body on somebody. Box out, because you know this is a team that is going to be hungry on the offensive glass. There cannot be ball watching today, especially after the Bucks had all this time off. They had 2 days of practice where they talked about how it was so beneficial to get this time in to work on concepts, work on things, and try to get it together. And they said they felt like it was great energy in the building coming off of these practices. So like, let's see what was practice put into context now. Like, let's see it in action. So it's going to be a challenge for him against this Celtics team, because Boston's been playing some really good ball as of late.
Yeah, I mean, started 0-3 and have now gotten to where they are since then. 15-6?
15-9, yeah. Or 15-6 since, yeah.
Yeah, and look, the other troubling thing, I suppose, for the Bucks, or discouraging thing, is there's no let up in the Celtics. They are they're 3-4 against the top 10 teams by net rating in the NBA so far this season, which is pretty good, right? But they're 12-5 against teams that are in the middle of the pack or the bottom 10, and the Bucks right now are technically in the middle, but they're trending closer to the bottom 10. So like, they don't see a weakened opponent on the schedule and let up. They have taken it to those caliber opponents. So you're not going to be catching Boston off guard. And if anything, that last thing that you brought up is what I'm really anxious to see tonight, is how this group looks after, yes, you had 2 days of practice, in hard practice, as we heard from Doc Rivers, but 4 days off since a game. And there was 2.5 days prior to those 2 days off where you didn't have that. So how are these two teams going to look coming out of the gates tonight? Another big thing here. The latest updates, we'll just pass along what came out of media availability yesterday and see the most recent injury report for these two teams as we continue to get you set for the Bucks and the Celtics later on tonight. We'll dig into that coming up next on Locked On Bucks. It's 2025. It's almost 2026. And those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, well, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just from you sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously. And ZocDoc makes that easier than ever. Because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using ZocDoc makes scheduling easier. You search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. No more back and forth phone calls or waiting for weeks to be seen by your physician. It's super helpful for routine checkups and those little issues you've been meaning to get checked out. It just makes it simple to keep your health a priority, even when juggling a busy schedule. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. And Camille, we got to remind people too, you've made this your number one listen of the day. Thank you for making this the number one sports podcast network as well. You're already living your team every day. Now make it up a level here. Take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club. Get Locked On Bucks with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 for the full year. You can find the link to sign up in our episode description of this podcast. We heard from Kyle Kuzma yesterday. I know people are over it. Did you take anything from that of Kuzma saying, well, I know the reporting was technically some teammates that Giannis talked to, but he didn't talk to me.
Yeah, when Kuz made me laugh when he's like, it wasn't like The Apprentice, and he like sat us all down and had a conversation or anything like that. He's like, so no, I don't know what you're talking about. And even hearing Kevin Porter Jr. being like, I'm not talking about this anymore. Like, Kevin was even stronger in his comments and just saying like, this is false news right now. Like, we have no indication from Giannis that this is happening. And I was listening to him and I'm like, man, I hope that is the case, because if his teammates are hearing one thing and this is how they're feeling, but something else is going on, like that's a really bad look. But then too, people have been trying to do all like the reading Giannis's Instagram and trying to decipher what's going on. But his most recent post was like just highlight edits from TikTok and him saying like, blah, 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 just hoop GA, like block out the noise and just hoop. And on one side, like, yeah, man, I feel you, just hoop. That's what we all here for. We want to see you hoop for the Bucks this season, as we thought, because again, my opinion on this whole situation with all the trade rumors and the Shams reports and everything like that, like my instant reaction was disappointment, because I was like, dang, like we just heard from Giannis in training camp and he was saying like, you know, I'm a Milwaukee Buck, I'm here, I'm committed. But if in 6-7 months I change my mind, I'm human. And I did the math and I was like, that's after the deadline. He is saying like, you know, this season he is here, but in the summer he will reevaluate like he tends to do every single year. And then all this comes out in the middle of the season. It's like, well, dog, like if this was the play, then like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and like, let's just do it. But I think ultimately, like the Kuz comments are funny. Hearing Kevin Porter Jr. stand up for his teammate is cool. But ultimately, like until we hear from Giannis himself, It's just going to keep swirling and swirling and swirling. And he's really like the only person who can quiet all of this that's going on. And I think that adds to like the disappointment feeling that I have of like, man, like, doesn't even have to be all of this right now if you didn't want it to be all of this right now in the moment. So ultimately, I hope that Giannis is feeling like that. Hey, let's just hoop for the Bucks this season. Let's quiet all this down and let's just hoop.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to read into any of his posts and what the cryptic meaning of it would be. I would just say maybe let's avoid it altogether. Like if you want to cleanse it, fine. Let's maybe stay off of it altogether either, because this is never going to die down otherwise. And same thing with what we've heard from his teammates, what we've heard from other reports. One of the sides is accurate and one is not, and which one remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out in a matter of months or weeks or days, whenever it is. But all we can focus on is the Celtics, and going back to the message from Miles Turner too. Like, look, the season is not over. We're basically a third of the way through. We're in mid-December. It's not over. There's time to turn things around. You mentioned this yesterday. Miles mentioned it. We're 5.5 games back of the 3 seed right now in the East. But we also have to be aware of our situation and understand where we are at, that you can't just keep kicking the can down the road and say, well, it's early, we got time. Like, at some point, it's no longer early. So we do have time to turn this around and to play better and to get back into that conversation and to do things like, again, we just ran through with the Celtics in this roster and said, this is what you envisioned from the Bucks, and thought best case scenario, these are the things they're going to be able to do, maybe save for the offensive rebounding. But if anything, Camille, it's shown you, look, it's not that it's as simple as, well, the way we play offensively means we can't offensive rebound. I do think there's larger conversations when you look at the makeup of the roster and the guys that the Celtics have. They are a bigger team than the Bucks. But it's not as simple as, well, teams that shoot threes can't offensive rebound. The Celtics are showing you that's not accurate. So even looking at this opponent and saying, okay, to your point of watch how the Celtics operate, how do we play like this? Because look at what it's done for Boston. This is some of the things. These are some of the things we're going to have to start to do in the short term until we get Giannis back on the floor to, not to sound too hyperbolic and dire here, but to save our season. If the goal is still, we think we are a competitive team that isn't just, cannon fodder in a first-round exit or a play-in tournament team in the playoffs, like, we think we can make some noise. You got to do it now.
You do. And I know we talked about the Pacers and like, hey, teams are trying to emulate the Pacers in the sense of having the more depth, leaning into that for your rotations and the style of play. But maybe the team that the Bucks should have been looking at is Boston, of like, hey, we want to shoot more threes. The pace part, Boston ain't got that. So that ain't the full, but it's just a little bit of a blueprint of like, hey, could be a way that we play. So I think tonight's game is going to be kind of interesting in that way of just seeing how they operate. Now, some might point to the fact of being like, well, they have Joe Mazzulla, we have Doc Rivers. I have more confidence in a Joe Mazzulla coach team than I do in a Doc Rivers coach team, and I would not begrudge you for feeling that way. But for me, I'm looking at this game of like, what could we see from Boston that the Bucks could try to take into their own and make it their own? And again, the Bucks are down Giannis, Celtics are down Tatum. The difference is Celtics still have Jalen Brown, who is a Finals MVP. So someone who can still kind of facilitate and really draw the attention of opposing off our defenses, while the Bucks have young guys who are coming up and establishing themselves as those type of options, hopefully establishing themselves as those types of options with Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins. And honestly, one thing else that I heard thinking of that was Doc Rivers saying like, Miles Turner is not an offensive hub, and he never will be for the Milwaukee Bucks. He wasn't that in Indiana, and we don't expect it in Milwaukee. So I was like, oh, that's also very interesting. Not that I was saying he should be a hub, but like, can we utilize him a bit more offensively? I think we can. And I don't think he needs to be a hub in order to do that. But that being said, again, it's another chance for Scoot and for Ryan to continue their development. And trying to find a way to hold on until the big fella does come back. So it's hard for the Bucks without Giannis. But again, I think one of the silver linings has been the opportunity it has created for those young guards to get these reps in, get the opportunity to develop. And for Scoot and for Ryan now to get chemistry playing together. Because it is different for Ryan now having to play next to, Scoot rather than when he was the one who was running the show. It's a little bit different trying to get to your spots when you're off ball a little bit more than when you have the ball in your hand. So there's still that growth aspect of it for me where it's like, as long as I can keep seeing some of these young dudes hoop, like I am still having fun to a degree with this team and seeing what they can become, even though things haven't gone the way we hoped that it would so far.
Yeah. Leave your thoughts on tonight's matchup with the Celtics. Any of the other comments that we've addressed from other players? The doc one on Miles Turner as well. A lot to get to from today's show, but leave your thoughts on the matchup, what you are looking forward to tonight, what you're looking to see, and your expectations in this game. A big test for the Bucks against the Boston Celtics tonight at Fiserv Forum. As always, if you're at the arena checking out the game, do by all means stop by and say hello. If you find the radio broadcast booth, we're pretty easy to find. I don't remember. I should. Now that's years and years of going there, but it's just muscle memory. I don't remember the section that we're in, but you can find us. So if you're there, stop by and say hello. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Bucks. Tomorrow we're going to have the recap of the Bucks and the Celtics. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you can get all the latest episodes here. And if we made your Spotify Wrapped, if you prove it on social media, you can get a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. You'll be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club and get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you now to the 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel, the first of its kind. And on audio, make sure you make that your second listen, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.